Welcome to the first of two candidate forums to hear the views of the candidates for 3 seats on the Township Council. I'm the moderator for today's program, Ruth Gaynor, from the Monmouth County League of Women Voters. The format for today will be as follows. No opening statements by the candidates. The reporters will alternate questions on the subject areas as agreed. Today's debate will be the issues on the environment. And let me introduce the reporters at this time. We have Jane Furse of the Home News and Rhea Basroon from the Sentinel, and they will be asking the questions in order to the candidates by party. The questions will be limited, the response to the question will be limited to 2 minutes. They do not have to use the entire time, but a timer will signal when they have 30 minutes and 30 seconds, and then we will cut them off at the end of 2 minutes. The responses will also be allowed 2 minutes. That will be a rebuttal. Each party will have that chance. There will be closing statements from each candidate, and that will also be 2 minutes. Now I'd like to get right into the meat of the matter, and we will start with our first question for Mr. Michael Baker, a Democrat running for the Township Council.
Mr. Baker, you are a founding member of Irate, a group which has opposed the Wheelabrator-Fry proposal to build a garbage burning plant on Edgeboro Road from the start. You're now running as a Democrat. Are you satisfied with the resistance the Democrats are putting up against the proposal, considering they were supportive of it at the start?
Rhea, I'm very happy with what we've done so far, and I do think there's some more things we can do, and I'll address them at the end of the question. I take opposition to the point you made. The Democrats were not in favor of this from the start. Our position was of no position. I think it's very important and very responsible to have an open mind and not to be against something before you know anything about it. When the Democratic administration and the candidates and many others in town found out just what the Wheelabrator-Fry proposal was about, then we made an intelligent and informed decision to oppose it. The steps we have taken so far include the hiring of an environmental attorney to follow the application procedure all the way through till it comes down here, to fight it every bit of the way. We've also hired a consulting firm to gather the technical detail that we need to fight this project. We've also introduced at Jerry O'Connor's initiation a zoning ordinance change to change the zoning in the Edgeboro landfill area from heavy industry to light industry. One, because we don't feel that heavy industry belongs here in East Brunswick, and also because it would be much more difficult for a industry like Wheelabrator-Fry to locate here. We've also been pushing from East Brunswick, the county and the state, to institute procedures that would help protect our environment here. We instituted our own clean air ordinance, probably the most strict in the state. We've also pushed the state assembly and the state senators to introduce a bill which would call for a moratorium on the construction of power plants of this type for several years, which will give us time to just look and see what these plants will do, what alternatives there are. Because responsibly, we all know that we have a garbage problem in New Jersey. Landfills are closing down. There's more and more garbage every day. We have to find a solution, a place to put it. We all feel that Wheelabrator-Fry is not the solution.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Now could we hear from one of the Republicans for a rebuttal?
The problems of solid waste disposal occupy the time and the talent of scientists and engineers on the county, the state, the national, and international levels. It is the responsibility of the East Brunswick Township Council to protect the health and the welfare of the citizens of East Brunswick. We live in an area where there is a well-defined health hazard, and it may be linked to environmental factors. In our own community of East Brunswick, the health records indicate high cancer death rates for both men and women, and this is confirmed by the study of Dr. Donald B. Luria of the New Jersey Medical School in Newark. We need only to drive down our major highways to experience the air pollution. Yet, the Democrat Council has refused to do what is necessary to prevent an additional health hazard from coming into our community. They endorsed Wheelabrator-Fry on their master plan. They visited the Saugus, Massachusetts Wheelabrator-Fry plant several years ago and should have recognized the health hazard at that time. They didn't institute a water testing program until spring of 1981. And the pollution ordinance, the air pollution ordinance, which they put into effect, has already been challenged in court, and the one case that came up has been dismissed. Our monitoring of the landfill at the present time by the local health officials, who are charged by the DEP, code number 13, page 229, with enforcing as if it were law the rules of the DEP, have been monitoring since May of 1982. Only since then, the landfill, and their monitoring consists of going to the landfill, measuring the wind, its velocity and its direction, and sniffing the air twice a day. The Democrats refused to put the issue of the incinerator up for public referendum, despite their public commitment to the environmental organization Cause, which was founded in Joe Hudak's basement, while in 3 towns, including nearby Linden, a non-binding referendum discouraged a proposed incinerator.
Thank you, Mrs. Tisiker. And now Jane Furse of the Home News will ask a question of Mr. Tony Criscuolo.
Mr. Criscuolo, with reductions in the State Department of Environmental Protection's staff, how can local government ensure that state regulations governing the Edgeboro landfill
Jane,
are
can you speak a little
enforced?
louder?
Yes, Mr. Criscuolo, with reductions in the State Department of Environmental Protection staff, how can the local government ensure that the regulations governing the Edgeboro landfill are enforced?
That's the problem, Jane. The local ordinance, you might say the present administration is not enforcing the laws that should be enforced, or the regulations. The DEP has a shortage of people, so to speak. The present administration could enforce the laws. We have a health inspector that works for the state, sort of a consultant. The DEP issued a citation to the Edgeboro landfill. It was taken to court. It was thrown out of court. Now, this is the East Brunswick. It was dismissed, so we are not getting the cooperation from the East Brunswick administration that we should be receiving. There has been a number of times that the landfill, the garbage was not covered properly. The people have complained about odors in this area. We have seen that it was not covered. No citations or summonses were issued to the Edgeboro people. Politically, they are connected very deeply with the Democratic organization. They contribute very heavily. They are almost as if they're sacred. They cannot be touched. The Edgeboro landfill sits over a major aquifer. We have enough of trouble. We are compounding the issue by having it there. The landfill is an accident waiting to happen, and it will destroy our water. It should be closed and relocated elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Criscuolo. And now could we hear a rebuttal, perhaps from the Democrat?
Yes, I too regret that local authority does not have more control over landfills. I wish that within the limits of the law that we had more control and that local authority could do more on enforcement with landfill. However, that authority belongs to the Department of Environmental Protection. And we all know that that department is under the office of the governor, a Republican governor today. I, for one, am supporting the legislation that is now in Trenton, that is pending in Trenton, that would allow and would give more authority to local government so that they can do more with enforcement of landfills. We also have had some good relationships with the Department of Environmental Protection in the past, and we have been able to enforce and requirements on the Edgeboro landfill.
Thank you, Ms. Denahan. And now we will have our question from Rhea for Mrs. Denahan.
Mrs. Denahan, Experts have predicted that within 2 years, East Brunswick and other towns could face a serious water deficit. As a member of the Township Council, what could you do to ensure an adequate water supply?
Yes, the Democrats in East Brunswick have addressed that problem in the past. In 1977, we've adopted a water master plan. That plan recognized that we would have a shortage of water. We would be needing additional supplies of water for the future. The sources are many. We could continue to get water from the Delaware and Raritan Canal. We could have New Brunswick pump that water from the canal into East Brunswick. But that is not the only solution. Perhaps the solution best would be to regionalize with other communities in the southern part of the county. The problem that's facing East Brunswick is also going to be facing the communities surrounding us. However, that too is not the only solution. There are many solutions and many sources of water that we can get. What we're looking for is we're looking for quality water, but at the same time, affordable water. We're also not operating in a crisis situation. I think you see here government responding to long-range planning, responsible government. Let me state again that we're looking for quality water, but at the same time, affordable water for the future.
Thank you, Mrs. Denahan. And for rebuttal,
Yes, I'll take it.
Mr. Cole?
I'd like to quote Mayor Fox, November of '81. Mayor Fox stated that the Farrington Aquifer, the groundwater supply for the area, is currently being overpumped. Overpumping can lead to salt intrusion into the fresh groundwater and intrusion of pollution from the landfill sites and toxic waste landfills that lie above the aquifer. Yet his administration has done nothing to close the landfill above the aquifer, which has access to 1.5 million gallons of water a day. There are no meters to measure this water. We don't know whether they use 1.5 million gallons or 5 million gallons of water. If the garbage burning plant is built, they will be using another 1.5 or 0.5 million gallons plus. Private industry is using more water than the residents, all the residents in East Brunswick put together. The needs of the people should be put before the needs of private industry. The reason or not is put very simply. The companies are very generous in their contributions to the Democratic Party. The people don't know what's going on in town. They're out making a living, providing for their families. Many don't have time to get involved. This November 2nd, they can't turn this 18-year one-party town into a two-party system. A two-party system will give them better government, less backroom deals. The people owe it to themselves and their families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Criscuolo. And now, Jane, would you have a question for Mr. Seigler?
Yes,
Mr.
I
Arnie
do.
Seigler.
Yes, Mr. Siegel. The Cancer Alley Times, a flyer released on behalf of the Republican candidates, charges that the Township Council has used municipal resources for the, quote, protection and promotion of powerful special interests. Please specify how the current administration has used the community's resources for such purposes.
Jane, when I mentioned the in the Cancer Alley Times, the use of resources, you must understand that their master plan, theirs, contained the Wheelabrator Fry, and it's a known fact that the individuals associated with our Edgeboro landfill, where they proposed to put the resource recovery unit, the Wheelabrator Fry unit, is actually controlled by the Herberts, which have been renowned in the Democratic Party for the county, and they're also affiliated locally. So looking at it from that standpoint, that's where we came up with the actual knowledge of what the affiliation was. And you know, when you're talking about landfills, you're talking about Wheelabrator Fry, you're talking about interest, you're talking about two elements that we all need for basic survival, air and water. And because of this, and because of the knowledge of what this area is in the way of cancer and so forth, we felt that to bring this out to the public would be the only right thing to do.
Thank you, Mr. Seigler. And now perhaps the rebuttal for this.
Yes, I would like to rebut that. The first thing I'd like to say about the Cancer Alley Times, since it has been brought up, is that I'm shocked that responsible people would put in a document such as that and mail it to every resident, and the document containing half-truths, misstatements, and so forth, and the end result of that particular document is to drag down every property value in town, including the homes of the 3 Republican candidates. I'm not sure they know what they're doing. I understand that they are trying to bring a message to the residents of East Brunswick, but I don't think that's the appropriate way of doing it. It certainly might be appropriate for them to do that to win an election, but it is scare tactics. One of the things that was mentioned just a moment ago is that the East Brunswick Democrats endorsed Wheeler Brader Fry in the master plan. That is also a false statement. Wheeler Brader Fry has not been mentioned in the master plan. Rather, resource recovery has been mentioned in the master plan. Resource recovery takes on many forms. Incineration is just one of those. And there's also a comment has been made that the East Brunswick Democrats are tied into the Herberts. Well, I really don't know what that means, but I think what the implication is that the East Brunswick Democrats are tied into the Herberts, who are also Democrats. Mr. Herbert, who runs the landfill, is not a Democrat. He is a Republican.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. And as it turns out, Rhea, would you have a question for Mr. O'Connor, Mr. Jerry O'Connor, who
Yes.
is our incumbent Democrat?
Mr. O'Connor, as a councilman, why didn't you endorse the establishment of the septic system management area plan for the Riva Avenue section, which does not have city sewers? What do you propose as an alternative, or do you think there should be an alternative?
Well, I had great problems understanding the testimony given by the Sewage Authority and the firm that has been hired by the Sewage Authority in their outline of what the problem really is in the septic system management area. It is my own personal opinion that there isn't a problem there. As a matter of fact, if all of the 800 to 1,000 homes in that particular area were to have faulty septic systems, then that drainage of waste into the Farrington system would only include 3% of the entire intake of the area. The other 97% of the intake is rainfall. I don't think that another agency, even though it's been suggested that the Sewage Authority run that program, I don't think another agency would be the appropriate thing to do right now. I certainly don't think that there's a problem. It is my opinion, and I believe it is also our township attorney's opinion, that the health department has every right to inspect systems that the health department may feel are failing, and then it is up to the homeowner to fix that failing septic system. It seems to me that if somebody buys a home in that particular area, they are buying it with full knowledge that they are buying a home that has a septic system that must be maintained.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Perhaps a rebuttal on this side? Mr. Seigler?
Ruth, I was under the impression that Mr. O'Connor originally voted for the SSMA. And, you know, I'm quite surprised that with the 800 families that are involved in this thing, the major portion of these people think that the SSMA was totally unnecessary. What I can't understand is why there had to be expended $200,000 for the survey and everything else, when the amount of homes that had problems did not exceed 12. They could have taken that money, bought each one a home in Florida, and resolved the problem that way. I don't think it was necessary to spend this money. Of course, they'll say that, well, it wasn't East Brunswick funds. But when you spend federal funds, that also is taxpayers' money. And I think under the circumstances, if it was well thought out, there was no need for an SSMA.
Thank you, Mr. Seigler. And now, Jane, do you have a question for Ms. Sue Tisiker?
Yes, I do, Ms. Tisiker. You've gone on record criticizing the water quality and the incidence of cancer in this area. Is the Township Council doing all it can to ensure residents that the water supply is safe? And if not, what additional action could it take?
The Township Council is not doing as much as it could do to protect the water quality and the water quantity in East Brunswick. East Brunswick is circled by communities who have faced the problem of poor water quality for many years. We have to address it here. Recently, the Township has instituted a series of water quality tests. They're late in coming. We need only to look at our neighbors, look at the record of local aquifers to see that water quality problems are going to face us too, and may in fact face us now. To the south of us, in South Brunswick, the Old Bridge sands were contaminated by the JIS landfill. The JIS landfill was never closed until the water was tested by local officials, county officials, state officials, and then finally federal officials. Testing at the local level is not enough. The other testing being done on our local aquifer, which is the Farrington aquifer, is being done by the owner of the landfill himself. Surely we can all see that our most objective results may not come out of those kinds of tests. Our most recent water tests are of particular concern. These tests were done on July 2nd, 1982, and the water study shows that there's some indication of volatile organic chemicals in our water. According to the Water Resource Management newsletter, these are of particular concern to us. We need to do a number of things. We need hydrological studies of the landfill area. We need geological studies of the soil strata in that area. And we need to do some compilation of the kinds of chemicals that are showing up in our water and the kinds of chemicals that were dumped into our landfill.
Thank you, Ms. Tisiker. And perhaps we have a rebuttal over here.
A couple of things have been, a
Mr.
lot
Baker.
of things have been misstated today. Water testing in East Brunswick for toxic and hazardous materials started 2 years ago. And of course, you can't have too much water testing. The question to ask is, will extra testing show up anything? We test now more than is required by the state of New Jersey. We test 3 times a year. The state of New Jersey requires every 2 years. Ms. Tisiker makes analogies to towns in the area with water quality problems, but she doesn't really address if there's a quality problem here in East Brunswick. She said the report showed that there's some volatile organic chemicals in the water. Those chemicals are present everywhere in this country and throughout the world. Our water here in East Brunswick is demonstrably better than many areas in this state and many areas in the country. In fact, the water that is taken from the aquifer is much cleaner than the water that we get from the Delaware and Raritan Canal. Ms. Tisiker was quoted recently in a newspaper article saying that there's a water problem in East Brunswick, and she admitted to not even having read the water analysis.
Shouldn't believe everything you read in the paper.
And as for who does the testing, independent labs do testing of water wells in East Brunswick, and they do the tests of the water wells at the Edgeboro landfill.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. And right on cue, Mr. Baker, it is your turn for a question. This time Jane will be asking a question.
Mr. Baker, should the township be faced with the possibility of additional garbage coming into the Edgeboro landfill due to the closing of other landfills in the near future, what would you do to accommodate or prevent the additional traffic on Route 18?
I think more important than preventing the additional traffic on Route 18 is preventing that additional garbage from being dumped at our landfill. We already have an awful lot of out-of-state and out-of-county garbage being dumped here. I think a couple of steps can be taken to stop that. We have to be sure and put pressure on the State Solid Waste Commission and the State DEP to make sure that by 1985, every county in this state takes care of their own garbage. That's what's required by the law, and that's what we have to push to see happen. Also, we can push the county, and we have, and they've recently hired an attorney from Philadelphia to fight out-of-state garbage coming into this state. Right now, I guess about 3/4 of the garbage that is dumped at Edgeboro landfill is from out of the county and out of the state. That has to be stopped. That can be stopped.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Rebuttal time?
I'd like to rebut what Mike had said. You know, we're talking about, again, our very existence, our town. For over 20 years, Edgeboro has been a dump for not just Middlesex County, not just East Brunswick, but for many communities as far away as Staten Island. I feel it's time, because I'm concerned, this is my town, to close Edgeboro. There are many places not too far away from East Brunswick that, number one, have a population much less than the close to 38,000 we have. I feel that it's time to quit dumping on East Brunswick. And since there is many areas south of here to utilize for dumping, I feel that the landfill should be closed, and that would solve our problem, not only in dumping, but in all the traffic that it brings about.
Are you finished?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We will go on to further questions. As you know, the questions today are concerning the environment, the water quality and supply, and the disposal of our waste, the resource recovery, landfill, and septic management. And we are going to continue with these questions. More debate time. And we'll have Rhea ask Mr. Tony Criscuolo a question at this time.
Mr. Criscuolo, how would you arrange for the state to close the Edgeboro landfill, considering the DEP says it's one of the most environmentally sound in New Jersey? And if you were successful, what would you suggest as an alternative means of garbage disposal?
Rhea, the DEP has closed down many landfills. They have a certain procedure which they have to follow. Even after a landfill is closed, there is a certain amount of maintenance. I believe that it should be closed. A new area that is not environmentally sensitive should be used with the new technology that we know today. What they have now is leachates and garbage is put on clay. And this clay, they have found out, stands up when you're using water. But under toxic chemicals, it breaks down, and this eventually will get into your water system, especially the Farrington aquifer. Under the new system, a new landfill that comes out, they have to put a vinyl liner on the clay, and on top of the liner, they put sand, and then they throw their garbage and all, whatever you have, where you get a certain amount of leachates from your garbage. This should not be over any aquifer. It should be in an area that is not environmentally sensitive. If they come up with an area like this, then a resource recovery system or garbage burning plant. If the state comes out with the standards that are strict enough where they will not be getting acid rain or dioxin, and the temperature is high enough to burn the garbage, to burn off all these toxic chemicals that will be put into the garbage burning plant. It should be away from major cities and townships. I think it can be worked out, but let's not compound a situation. We made mistakes in the past, let's correct them. Let's close this landfill, go to another area. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Criscuolo. And now for a 1-minute rebuttal this time.
I think a lot of what Mr. Criscuolo said is very unrealistic, misleading, and some of it's quite scary. He referred to it as a toxic waste dump site. That is not the case. That's just untrue. He didn't answer how he was going to close down the dump site. He just said he would. The state DEP has control over the closing down of dump sites. That part was true. We live in America, and fortunately in America, you can't close down or take somebody's property away from them because you don't like them. You have to prove they're doing something wrong. If they're doing something wrong, by all means, you can close them down. It's also unrealistic to say, close it down and move it someplace else. I don't think anybody out there watching or here in the audience will even believe that another town would willingly take in somebody else's garbage. It's our problem. We have to be responsible about it, and we have to find responsible solutions. Unrealistic and misleading statements to you, the public, are campaign promises that can't be kept.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Now, Jane, do you have a question for Mr. Jerry O'Connor?
Yes, I do. Mr. O'Connor, what is the Township Council doing to ensure testing of local drinking water for pollutants and cancer-causing agents is adequate? And are there other steps or other precautions that could be taken to confirm that the water is safe to drink?
Jane, back in 1977, the township, in fact, started a water testing program for contaminants to meet the requirements of the Federal Safe Water Drinking Act, or the Clean Water Drinking Act. Those tests have continued up until the present time, and at the present time they are being tested, the tests are being done more frequently, much more frequently. And this is the manner in which the Township Council is directing its focus to make sure that any contaminant levels that perhaps that may be there would in fact be detected. And the only responsible way that anybody could keep on top of a program is to test, to make sure that the water is in fact safe. The tests so far have shown that we're magnitudes of order below any of the maximum levels as indicated by the federal EPA or the state DEP. Those results are, as been said many, many times before, are available in the library, also available in the Consumer Affairs Office. And I think, as I said before, the only way that we can keep on top of this situation is continue to test.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. And now a 1-minute rebuttal from Ms. Tisiker.
Yes, thank you. I think that in addition to looking at the short-range advantages of additional testing, and I have already outlined my plans for additional testing, I feel that they should extend beyond the local level. I think that in addition to that, we have to look at the following long-term solutions to the problems of our water quality. We have in East Brunswick a special problem. We have a landfill sitting on the intake area of our major aquifer. That has caused problems in other areas of New Jersey. It sits there only because of a grandfather clause that permits it. We need to, in every way, recharge our aquifer. We could consider making the Farrington Lake into a deep water lake. That's one of the things that could be done. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tisiker. And now we will have one final question, and perhaps Rhea would propose a question to Mr. Seigler.
Yes, Mr. Seigler. Do you believe the council should have put the Wheelabrator Fry issue on the ballot for a non-binding vote?
Rhea, definitely. I feel that it's something that the citizens of East Brunswick are entitled to voice their opinion on. Wheelabrator Fry, or any resource recovery unit that pertains to this town, should be at least given to the citizens of this town to voice their opinion. This was not, and I feel it was also done because of political reasons.
All right, Mr. Seigler, perhaps we'd have a rebuttal over here.
Yes, I'll respond to that. Since I am the person who probably was that person that, well, I was that person that did change the ordinance, the zoning law that indicates that that particular area in the Edgeboro landfill is a heavy industrial area, and I changed that to a light industrial area. But I'm the one that was responsible for not putting that on the as a non-binding referendum. And the reason, I want to give a reason for doing that, and that is because we've been accused many times of being out of touch with the citizens of this township. In fact, we are very much so in touch with the citizens of this township. A non-binding referendum would not have proven anything other than that which we already knew, that the people of the township did not want a resource recovery unit or incinerator. And that is the reason I changed the zoning ordinance to make that a non-conforming use, and that is what I did. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. I believe that wraps up our time for questions. And at this time, we will go back to our original format of for a wrap-up, and we will hear from the candidates in order as they have been asked the questions. And we're going to hear, first of all, from Mr. Michael Baker, who is a Democrat and who is seeking a term on the East Brunswick Township Council. Mr. Baker.
I think you've heard from the Democratic side tonight what we think about the job of government is in watching our environment. It's a responsible job. It's a job that you have to keep looking after things every day. And it's a job that you take seriously. It's not one that you make wild accusations and misstatements about. As Tisiker just said before, that the landfill sits over an intake area on the aquifer. Again, that is not true. It's not an intake area. But looking back over what we've done over the last couple of years in opposing the wheelbrader proposal, in testing our water, I think we have to realistically look at the problem of garbage. How are we going to solve it? I think we have about 5 years before we have to make a decision on where we can put our garbage other than landfilling it. Because obviously, we don't feel that burning it is a solution, and we also don't feel that landfilling is the best long-term solution. There are new technologies that are being developed. Maybe in 2 or 3 years, a source separation or a final destination separation system will be in effect, where garbage can be sifted out into ferrous and non-ferrous metals, into grades of paper, and recycle. It's more efficient to recycle than to destroy something. Something that everybody out there can do to help us manage or control the landfill in the meantime is contact your assemblymen and senators and refer to an environmental committee legislation, Assembly Bill number 1183. That, for the first time, would give local municipalities the rights to prosecute landfill and dumping violations. Right now, we don't have that authority. We should have that authority. The other thing you can do is help support the passage of the moratorium legislation, which was pushed to be introduced from East Brunswick by the Democratic state legislatures who represent this area.
Thank you very much, Mr. Baker. And now a Republican candidate, Mr. Tony Criscuolo.
Yes, Mr. Baker and the rest of the Democrats seem to be painting a very rosy picture about the landfill and wheelbrader fry, that nothing is wrong with East Brunswick. I'd like to just read some statements of what has been put into the Edgeboro landfill that is fact, not fiction. In 1975, over 4 million gallons of oiled waste sludge and liquid sewage sludge were dumped in Edgeboro. In 1976, over 900,000 gallons of liquid sludge, bulk liquids, and semi-liquids. In 1977, over 1 million gallons of liquid sludge. From 1978 to August of 1977, over 180,000 gallons of chemical waste from Duane Marine Salvage, including flammable solvents, bottles of PVCs, paint waste, styrene, tetrachloride, heavy metals, and some chemicals that I can't even mention, which are all cancer-causing agents, have been dumped. In 1979, Joe Albert and Jersey Sanitation listed illegal chemical dumping in Edgeboro. There is a lot of money in illegal dumping and toxic waste dumping, the so-called midnight dumps. Truckloads of oily sludge from Exxon refinery were dumped in Edgeboro. The state spent over $76,000 for a chemical spill cleanup fund, which Edgeboro was supposed to be reimbursed the state for. It still hasn't been done. And as far as the water goes, East Brunswick had Envirosphere Incorporated do some tests for them. We have tried to locate Envirosphere. We cannot locate them. They operates out of a home. To this date, for one past week, we have been trying to contact them. They have not been able to be contacted. They indicate there is toxins in our water.
Thank you, Mr. Criscuolo. And now we will hear a wrap-up from the Democratic candidate, Mrs. Elaine Denahan.
East Brunswick does have quality water. The Democrats have been concerned with the quality of water over the years. We were the first community to comply with the Federal Safe Drinking Act in 1977, the first community in the state of New Jersey to do that. We do comprehensive tests on a daily basis. We also test for over 100 known pollutants every 4 months. These tests are done by certified labs, labs that are certified by the state of New Jersey. We exceed the testing standards set by the state and federal governments. The results of these tests can be found here in the library. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my opponent's words for it. On your way out, look for those results yourself. We, the Democrats, have been committed to the protection of our environment over the years. In 1977, we adopted a water master plan to address future supplies of water. We are not reacting to a crisis situation. We believe in long-range planning for critical resources. This is the kind of responsible government the Democrats have given to East Brunswick over the past 10 years.
Thank you, Mrs. Denahan. And now we'll hear from a Republican candidate, Mr. Arnie Seigler.
What we've been talking about this morning is our town, East Brunswick. Being concerned, living here, raising a family here, and talking about the very basic items, elements that we breathe, our air. We're talking about the water we drink, which we all need for basic survival. I feel, and it's just common sense, if you keep dumping in an area that's over an aquifer, our water supply, it's just a matter of time, and who's to say how long, before you're going to have penetration. Now, I know myself that in the close to 20 years I've lived here, and looking at some of the water reports I've seen, additional chemicals each and every year are found in our water. Yes, they do say it is, let's say, up to standard and it's not harmful now. When is it going to be harmful? I feel that looking at it from Edgeboro dump, if anybody has driven on our major highway, Route 18, I think you've come to the conclusion that we certainly don't need additional traffic. If, in fact, they continue to allow dumping in Edgeboro, think about 700 additional trucks coming into our town. I don't have to tell you about what these trucks can do in a way of pollution. If you've ever been in back of them, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. If anybody has taken the time to drive just a little south of here, toward exit 8A, and since we're on exit 8, or exit 9, you'll find many, many areas of open land with little or no population. This is where they should put a dump, not here in East Brunswick. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seigler. And back to the Democratic candidate, Mr. Jerry O'Connor.
I think it's very important that, that people who are listening and watching understand that, in fact, we do have a landfill in East Brunswick. That landfill was opened up 30 years ago at the request of a Republican government. but nevertheless, the landfill does exist. And in the real practical world, we have to live with that situation. Closing the landfill is a lot of political rhetoric. As far as I'm concerned, it's totally impractical for the State Department of Environmental Protection to close a landfill upon which they've mandated the expenditures of millions of dollars of environmental improvements. And what I'm trying to drive home is that it's important that people understand that that landfill is not polluting or contaminating any water supply in East Brunswick. It was mentioned before that that particular area is not a recharge area for the Farrington Aquifer. We have to make sure, of course, that our water is not polluted. And we, as a member of the Township Council, and those who I hope to be elected with me in November, are going to make sure that we continue to monitor water very closely. We are going to make sure that we watch those tests that may indicate an increase in contaminants. And, simply put, we are going to follow the same program that we have been following for the past 5 years in making sure that our water supply is safe.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. And our final debater for the day, the Republican candidate, Ms. Sue Tisiker.
We need to recognize in so many ways every day that we live in a very special part of New Jersey. We live in a beautiful community that unfortunately is faced with extreme environmental hazards. Air pollution, a landfill which does sit on the intake area of our aquifer. You can see this yourself by looking at the Natural Resources Inventory map. It will show you the recharge areas not only for the Farrington Aquifer but the Old Bridge Sands. We need to face that that has caused problems in other communities, severe problems, and we need, as a result, to look for solutions. We need to look for solutions long-term, and we need to look for them every day when we build a house in East Brunswick or when we take a glass of water from our tap. We can look for solutions to water quality in the following ways. We can do more testing at a higher level, and we can include with those testing results samples of not only water samples, we can correlate them with chemicals that were dumped into the Edgeboro dump. We can look to share our water resources with neighboring communities in the form of interconnections. The cost of water is probably going to go up, and there may be nothing much we can do about it over the long term. What we have to do also is create in this area another recharge area. We have one in the Jamesburg Park area. We can dig the Farrington Lake to a deeper level, and the water can perk down through that and can recharge our aquifer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tisiker. And that gives you an insight into the views of the candidates today. I do want to mention that this is the first of 2 debates that will be held in East Brunswick for the Township Council candidates. Our second debate will concern financial issues and government services, taxes, revaluation, municipal budget, delivery of municipal services other than environmental, and administration and operations. A weighty subject, and today we have addressed the subject of the quality of life in East Brunswick. The schedule for these debates may be found here at the library so that you'll know when they will be seen again on your cable network. The League of Women Voters encourages you to vote on November 2nd, our election day this year, and the polls in East Brunswick are open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you very much.